Welcome back to Unlock, Empower, Transform with Shay Blackman. I'm your host, and if you're just joining us, you're listening to episode 50. 50. Let that sink in for a minute. We've had 50 incredible conversations about leadership, culture transformation, and helping you show up as your best self at work and in life. But today we're talking about something that hits differently. It's the reality that many of you are living right now. Maybe silently, maybe while pretending everything's fine. We're diving into what I call Gen X's double duty dilemma. You're managing a career, supporting aging parents, raising kids, and somehow keeping it all together. The sandwich generation at work isn't just a catchy title. It's your Tuesday afternoon when your mom calls about her doctor's appointment, the same moment your teenager texts about the school project due Friday. If you're nodding right now, this episode is for you. Let me paint a picture. You're a high-performing professional, mid-career, probably in leadership or senior individual contributor roles. You've built credibility, influence, and trust over decades. You're good at what you do, really good. But you're also the person your parents call when their bills are confusing, when they need someone to take them to appointments, when they're lonely on a Saturday evening. And simultaneously, you're the person your children, whether they're teenagers, young adults, or sometimes even your own grandchildren, are depending on for guidance, financial support, or a safe place to land. Here's what nobody tells you. This isn't a productivity hack problem. You can't time block your way out of this. You can't delegate aging. You can't outsource being a parent. What we're talking about is a structural issue in how we approach work, and more importantly, in how organizations support the people carrying multiple generations on their shoulders. The data backs this up. The sandwich generation isn't a small demographic anymore. It's a massive segment of the workforce. And the burnout? It's real. It's measured in healthcare costs, in lost productivity, in quiet resignation. People are staying in jobs they've outgrown because they need the health insurance for parents or flexibility they're not even getting. This is leadership territory. This is where transformation starts. Let's talk about the actual mechanics of what you're juggling. Your career requires presence, strategic thinking, availability for crisis moments. But your caregiving responsibilities? They also demand presence. They also have crisis moments. And here's the thing, they're not coordinated. You might have a critical presentation scheduled, and then your parents' test results come back, and suddenly you're consumed. Or your kid is struggling with something, and you need to be emotionally available, but your boss needs you in back-to-back meetings. The mental load alone is staggering. I worked with a company once. Actually, there was a company that did an assessment of their mid-career women leaders. You know what they found? The women carrying dual caregiving responsibilities had significantly higher stress indicators, but were showing up with the same performance metrics as their male counterparts without caregiving loads. Translation: they were doing twice the work, managing twice the emotional load, and getting paid the same amount. That's not sustainable, and we need to name that. The challenge isn't that you're not capable. You are. The challenge is that the system wasn't designed for people like you. It was designed for people with partners managing the home front, or no family responsibilities, or the luxury of stepping back. So what do we do about it? First, we have to stop accepting the fiction that you can do it all without something breaking. Something is breaking. It's either your health, your relationships, or your career trajectory. Choose wisely. Here's where leadership presence comes in. And I want to be clear about what I mean by this. Leadership presence isn't about being in every room, every meeting, every email thread. It's not about performing constant availability. Authentic leadership presence is about impact, clarity, and trust. It's about being known for what you deliver, how you make people feel, and the decisions you make. And here's the secret. You can have that while also honoring your caregiving responsibilities. The companies and leaders who get this right do something counterintuitive. They don't ask for more flexibility and then expect the same output in the same timeline. They redefine what success looks like. Let me give you an example of what this could look like. A leader sets clear expectations about when they're available, and here's the key: those expectations are known, they're consistent, and they're respected. Maybe that means you're not in morning meetings because you need that time to get aging parents settled, but you're fully present and strategic in afternoon strategy sessions. Maybe it means you manage a project timeline that accounts for caregiving surges rather than pretending they won't happen. The leaders I've seen successfully navigate this do three things. Number one, they communicate proactively. Not oversharing personal details, but being clear about their working style and availability. I manage client relationships primarily through written communication and Tuesday, Thursday in-person meetings because this works best with my workflow. Number two, they deliver exceptional work in their focused windows. When they're present, they're fully there, no half attention, no phoning it in because they're exhausted. That concentrated effort creates the trust that protects their flexibility. Number three, they build organizational systems that don't depend on their constant presence. They document processes, they develop their teams, they create infrastructure. This is actually better leadership anyway. It scales. This is what I mean by creating workplace flexibility without sacrificing leadership presence. It's not about doing less. It's about being strategic about where you invest your intensity. Now let's talk about what organizations should be doing. Because individual hustle will only take you so far. Systemic change requires policy innovation. I'm an advocate for what I call life cycle responsive employment policies. Not one-size-fits-all flexibility, but policies that acknowledge that different seasons of life require different support. What would this look like in practice? Let me give you some examples. Flexible caregiving leave. Not just parental leave or FMLA, but explicit support for elder care. Time for appointments, for crises, for the ongoing management of aging parents' lives. Some organizations are experimenting with bank leave models. Employees can put certified caregiving leave into a bank and draw from it as needed. Backup care funding, specifically for adult elder care, not just child care. If you need to hire someone to stay with your parent or help with medical appointments, that's a legitimate organizational investment. It keeps you at work. Asynchronous work models. Not everyone needs to be present at every meeting in every office at the same time. Technology makes this possible. The organizations moving fastest on retention are the ones building genuinely asynchronous cultures, not as a pandemic concession, but as actual strategy. Transparent advancement pathways for nonlinear careers. Here's what typically happens. You step back, take a hit on ambition, and suddenly your trajectory is different. Organizations should be explicitly clear that you can advance differently. You don't have to be the person working 70-hour weeks to be promotable. Schedule protection agreements. I'm serious about this. Some organizations are using agreements that protect employees from meeting creep, email after-hours expectations, and the slow strangulation of flexibility through quick calls and emergency sync-ups. Caregiver-friendly performance metrics. Stop measuring success purely on hours visible in an office or constant meeting attendance. Measure output, quality, innovation, team development, client satisfaction, the things that actually matter. Manager training on supporting caregiving employees. Most managers have never been trained on this. They default to the old model. When an organization explicitly trains managers to support employees with caregiving responsibilities and ties that to their own performance reviews, suddenly policies become practice. The organizations getting this right understand something crucial. Supporting the sandwich generation isn't about being nice. It's about retention, productivity, and building cultures where talented people can actually stay and grow. It's business strategy. Let me give you something you can do right now that's going to help you immediately. I call this your integration map, and it's designed to help you see where your work and caregiving responsibilities can actually support each other rather than constantly collide. Here's how this works. I want you to think about this in 3 parts. Part 1, energy patterns. Write down your caregiving patterns. What days or times are your caregiving demands heaviest? For many of you, it's Monday mornings because you're coordinating the week, or Friday afternoons because you're checking in. Maybe it's unpredictable because your parent is struggling with health issues. Then overlay your work patterns. When are you least needed for reactive work? When can you do deep work? Are there parts of your role that genuinely require constant availability, or is that just what you've accepted? Part 2, strength matching. This is where it gets interesting. The skills you use in caregiving, crisis management, emotional intelligence, resource coordination, decision-making under pressure, these are leadership skills, literally skills. Ask yourself, where in my role can I actually use these strengths more intentionally? Where am I already demonstrating these capabilities? Can I position myself differently around that? Part 3, boundary clarity. List your non-negotiables and be honest. If you need Tuesday and Thursday afternoons for medical appointments, that's your non-negotiable. If you need one evening a week that's completely work-free, name it. Now, how do you communicate this proactively to your manager? The transformation here is shifting from feeling like you're constantly failing at everything to being intentional about where your energy goes. You're not adding another responsibility to manage, you're creating a map that makes the invisible visible. And here's why I'm sharing this with you. This is the work of high-value leadership. It's not about pretending you don't have a life, it's about building your leadership around the reality of who you are and what you're managing. That integration, that authenticity, that's where real influence comes from. I want to connect you to something I've developed that's specifically relevant to what you're managing. It's called the SHIELD Resilience Strategy, and I've built a whole guide around it that you can download. The SHIELD framework walks you through building resilience that actually sticks because it addresses all the layers of what's happening. The self-awareness piece, the healthy coping mechanisms, your internal resources, the external support you need, your learning orientation, and the daily practices that keep you grounded. For the sandwich generation specifically, this matters because you're managing multiple crises, multiple systems, and you're probably not replenishing your own well. SHIELD helps you create structure around that. It's not self-care in the bubble bath sense, it's strategic resilience building. The guide walks through your personal sustainability plan, your energy audit, how to set effective boundaries, because Lord knows you need to, and how to build an actual support system instead of white-knuckling it alone. This is the foundational work. You can't create better policies. You can't lead authentically. You can't make strategic decisions about your career if you're running on fumes. SHIELD gives you the framework to stop that pattern. I want to leave you with something bigger than just surviving the sandwich generation phase. This is about thriving through it and building a career and life that's actually integrated. If you're resonating with what we've talked about today, I want to invite you into deeper work. I've built the High Value Leadership Intensive specifically for professionals like you, people who are managing complexity, leading authentically, and refusing to choose between ambition and humanity. In the intensive, we go deep into frameworks for culture transformation, decision-making under pressure, building influence without burnout, and creating the kind of leadership presence that opens doors rather than closes them. But first, grab the SHIELD Resilience Strategy Guide. Download it, work through it, use it to stabilize your foundation, because you can't transform what you don't understand. These resources, the guide, the book, the intensive, they're built on the premise that you don't have to choose between being a good leader and being a good parent and a good child to aging parents and a person with your own needs. You can be all of that. It just requires getting intentional about it. Thank you for being here for episode 50. That's 50 episodes of real conversations about leadership and transformation. That's you showing up, listening, thinking differently about your work and your life. I'm already thinking about the conversations we're going to have. On Tuesday, we're diving into data-driven engagement, moving beyond survey fatigue, because engagement data can tell you powerful stories if you know how to listen. But before you go, I want to ask you two things. First, download the Shield Resilience Strategy Guide. It's in the show notes. Work through it this week. I want you to feel the shift that comes from getting intentional about your resilience. Second, comment. Tell me your reality. What's the hardest part about managing multiple generations? What policy would actually change your life at work? What's one thing you're going to implement from today's conversation? The community conversation is where the real transformation happens. You're not alone in this. The sandwich generation is real. The double duty is real. And the possibility of creating something better for you, for your family, for your organization, that's real too. I'll see you next time on Unlock, Empower, Transform.